Okay, welcome to session 2 of the Personal Development Workshop, The Power of Knowledge. And welcome, we're going to do the same format as last time round. And one of the people who couldn't make it last week, that could hopefully make it this week, we'll see in a second or two, he watched the recording of it and he said, it was like when it broke after half an hour. I don't record the breakout sessions. So it's like watching for, announcements from our sponsors, adverts, that type of thing. So I might do that. I might do some sponsorship announcements. But anyway, there we go. So half an hour. Breakout rooms for chat, second session, half an hour, and then we'll wrap it up at the end, and away we go. So as I put this this little content together, I've got some stories I wanted to build into the conversation to bring some of the parts to life. And it actually, when I looked at it, they're all military stories or about the military. I'm not from the military, but they're all got a military flavor to them. And that's not intentional. So we've got a bit of a guns and rockets flavor to the workshop today. It wasn't particularly intentional, but anyway, it's all part of my background and my experience. So kicking off, power of knowledge. So just to go a little bit of sort of a background on knowledge and opportunity. So if we look at how we gather knowledge, how we learn, how we develop, and how we grow, this little graph, this little chart, you can see on the left-hand side, we've got knowledge and experience on the vertical axis and then time on the bottom axis. And what we're going to start measuring is the more knowledge and experience we have, the better quality of opportunity we have, the more open to good ideas, good opportunities and people and things we meet as we go along. So how knowledge works, this is the classic sort of learning curve, if you like. So when we're born, we know nothing, arguably, or very little. We can breathe and cry and that sort of thing. That's about it. But consciously, we know very little. And the learning curve goes very, very steep. So in our early years, we learn how to walk and talk and build relationships. We then go to indoctrination camp. I mean school. We go to school where we're taught. Are we taught how to think, or are we taught what to think? And there's a little bit of a slight difference there in terms of education, but we are educated. We learn about languages and science, all these sort of things. Now, as we get older, from the age of about 23, 25, arguably this curve slows down. We may go to college or university, we start our career, but our learning curve slows down. And what happens is, within that red framework that is framed by our levels of knowledge and experience, is we have opportunities. These yellow dots, these are opportunities that are within our frame of reference. So we recognize them, we see them, we understand them, we can capitalize on them. And that's how we live our life, by taking opportunities or meeting with people or taking decisions, making choices that are within our frame of reference. And as we go through life, I think most of us on the call, looking at the list, I think I may be the oldest on the call, which is a bit of a shocking statistic. But anyway, most of us, there's not many people under the age of 25, I don't think. Most of us can look back in life and see things that we should have done or could have done differently. So what that looks like is we have these green dots that are outside of our frame of reference as youngsters, if you like, and we can only see them with the benefit of hindsight. If I knew then what I know now, this is our sort of reflection on life. So we can look back in time and we can see other opportunities we should have gone for, things we should have done, things we shouldn't have done. And for me, it was I should never have bought the Fiat Mirafiori 1.3. It was a beautiful car. It was shocking. It was the worst car on the planet. It cost me a fortune. In hindsight, I didn't know it was so bad. It went rusty on the roof, not the underside of it. The roof went rusty first. So I sold it to a friend. Or so I sold it to an ex-friend, actually, but there we go. So, but these green dots represent opportunities. Now, we couldn't see them when we were younger because it's outside of our frame of reference. Now, later in life, as we progress through life and business and career, these green dots they're there all the time. Whether it's a business opportunity, whether it's a career move, whether it's a decision, a relationship, a choice, an investment, but we can't see them because we don't have that level of knowledge and experience. So the only way, so these three dots on the right-hand side of the screen. By the way, the graphics this time, it's like Pixar, isn't it? It's sort of like CGI has arrived on the PowerPoint. But anyway, those three dots there, if I want to be able to capitalize on those or see them, have access to them, or be able to take it in as an opportunity. I've got to have the knowledge and experience to recognize them. And the only way we can do that is to expand our frame of reference. So and that's done through knowledge experience. And that's the theme of today's sort of workshop, is how do we expand our frame of reference? How do we increase our knowledge, and not just technical knowledge? I've got some different areas to look at to expand this sort of what I call the spectrum of knowledge. But it's not just textbook knowledge. There's streetwise knowledge, there's book knowledge, there's relationship knowledge, there's all sorts of things. But we have to keep expanding it, because I've learned, in my career, which is, as I say, maybe longer than most, I think, of the people on the call, that the best opportunities I've had have been the ones that I've been able to recognize. Now, I'm pretty sure there have been opportunities that I've missed because I didn't see them, I didn't recognize them as such, I wasn't aware of them, or they didn't look like an opportunity to me, if that makes sense. The phone may have rang, the door may have knocked, or the email may have come in. I just didn't see it because I wasn't aware. And this level of awareness is the key. So one of the things we looked at in terms of how we've engineered opportunities for us, for Lynn and me and the family, is we always set our vision out there, as we said before, in the goal setting and vision, but then we build our knowledge and understanding of things so when the opportunity comes along, we recognize it. So that happened with this house, the house we bought. Got the keys on Monday, by the way, we're in. Anybody fancies doing a weekend away in France? I'm painting and decorating. Anybody tall or taller than me, which is not hard, you're welcome. We've got some ceilings to paint, so get yourself down here, it would be great. But the house that we wanted, we did the research, we did the market research, we looked at availability, we looked at the regulations, we looked at we built our knowledge. So when we saw this property, then we bought it unseen pretty much. But when we looked at all the information about it, we knew what to expect. It became an opportunity because we had the knowledge. Now, if you'd have seen the house, or even if you saw it now, if you saw the house without knowing the location, what's going to happen to it, where it's been, and what's happening with it, if you looked at it, you wouldn't. I guarantee you wouldn't touch it. You go, no way am I buying that property, because it looks like a shed with a broken roof. And it is, but we know what can be done to it. We know the rules, regulations, the research. Therefore, it became an opportunity. So the theme is, how do we build your knowledge and experience so that you can not buy a shed with a roof, but how can you recognize opportunities or discussions or people or relationships or networks that you may have missed before by expanding this frame of reference for yourself. So that's the premise for it. So this is my first military story for you, and Gareth might be able to tell us. I don't know, Gareth, what gun is that? Any idea? No pressure, but if Gareth just types a message into chat box, maybe. I'm not. Gareth may know. I don't know, but
it's an old one.
It's an old one. That's excellent. Thank you. That's brilliant. Good advice. Thanks, Gareth, from the top there. It's an old one. Anyway, this is a gun. It's a for the uninitiated, it's a machine gun. And the disc thing, the sort of halfway like a drum, that's the bullet feed. It's the drum feed, and it's actually a Chinese one. I can't show you the picture of the one that I was working on. I can show you it, but then I've got to kill you. For the Official Secrets Act. So I'm not going to do that. I do like you guys. So anyway, this is a gun. And back in 1981, 82, back in the days of just before the Falklands, who remembers the Falklands conflict, the Falklands War, when we put a task force together to go down to the Falkland Islands off the coast of Argentina to get back our territory, basically. Now, what happened was we put people onto Ascension Island, and then we put people onto the Falklands to have a look around and see what was going on. And the first people to get there were special forces, elite forces, and of course they get to choose their own weapons, all this sort of thing. And my job, or I was in a team, our job was to develop the weapons that these guys wanted to take with them. Now, the challenge with the Falklands, this sounds very gory, it's not meant that way, but this is the sort of science of it. You get a gun like this, it's an accurate machine gun, it'll spit out about 850 rounds or bullets per minute, and it's incredibly accurate. You put this thing down, you fire it over 200 meters, and it'll go through, it'll punch the same hole. You just have a hole that big, all the bullets go through the same hole. Now, on the Falklands, it's a wide, barren rock. There's a few sheep, there's no trees. You don't want the gun to be quite that accurate. You want it to be spread around a little bit, spread the bullets around, so you don't just kill your target, one target 800 times, you can actually affect more targets. Anyway, that was the brief. So our job was to make a gun that looked similar to this. This is not it. Looked similar to this, make it less accurate. How do you make this gun less accurate? So they put, we were in an organization called Royal Ordnance, and they put a top team together. I was a young apprentice. I was only about 17, 18 years old. I was put onto it as the making the tea, all that sort of thing, but I was part of the team. They had a top engineer, graduate engineers. They had a team of engineers from design from all over the UK. They all came down to this one secure workshop. They had 2 or 3 of these guns sat on a bench, and we all stood around it. And they're like, okay, guys, we need to make this gun less accurate, have a spread of bullets, spread of shells, not just a tight bunching of shells. So the question is, how do you do it? Now, if you've got any, you can type in if you like, you've got any bright ideas, how do you make this gun less accurate? And the engineers said, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to change the barrel, change the chamber, change the rifling. We're going to make the hole bigger so it rattles out of the barrel, not as accurate, it falls out the end, all this sort of thing. They changed the powder, they changed the shell, the rifling, they changed everything, and it just wasn't working. You've got to keep the range, you've got to keep the power, and reduce the accuracy. There's a little old guy, an old boy in the workshop. Give it to an officer. That is a brilliant, brilliant answer. They had to make a gun less accurate. Give it to an officer to fire. I do like that. In fact, I can feel a blog coming on. Genius answer, and correct as well. Anyway, so little old boy in the workshop was literally sweeping up. He was there to tidy up the workshop as we were doing all those bits and trials. And he came over to one of the lead engineers, and I was there when he said it. He said, because we were struggling with this after 2 or 3 weeks, a month of doing this, couldn't figure it out. And he said, I can fix this for you. I know how to do this, because he said we had the same challenge in the desert warfare in World War II. He was one of the desert rats, went through the Montgomery. He was a trooper who went through the desert, had the same problem in the desert as our lads were going to face on the Falklands. And he said, I can fix this for you. And I remember the words that this engineer used. He said to this old boy, he said, don't worry about that, old man. He said, leave it to the experts. We know best. We leave it to the engineers. And off he went. This guy, okay, friend, off he went, walked away. About 2 weeks later, when we'd had more crazy ideas, and they were doing things, they were going to like bend the barrel. Well, if you bend the barrel on a gun, it just seizes up and heats up and melts. So you can't do that. Anyway, couldn't fix it. And this old boy came along again one evening. He said to the guy, he said, I can do this for you. I can fix it for you. And out of frustration, this lead engineer, who I sensed Gareth may have been an officer at some point in time, finally said, okay, all right, okay, tell us, how can you fix it? He said, it's real easy. He said, all you do is this. And you watch the screen, I'll show you. This is exactly what we did. So rather than change the barrel, the bullet, the rifling, the bore, the whatever, all the tricky technical things which would be a nightmare, he said, all you do is you move the bipod, the 2 legs at the front of the gun, which hold it stable. You just move it back. So you do that. You slide it back. You bolt it on earlier on in the barrel. So when you fire that gun now, what happens, if you imagine the barrel of that gun is here, and it will vibrate more with the bipod here. So it vibrates a bit. Now, over 200-meter range, a little vibration here turns into a big spread in 200-meter distance. It cost, I think it cost about £2.50 to make the kit, to do that, a little bolt and a grub screw and a clamp. And we issued it, and they used it, and they could actually bolt it in different places along the barrel to make it really not accurate or very accurate. It was a tunable weapon. But the thing is, for a lot of people, and thing to watch out for, is we think we know. I know, and I hear, doing what I do, I hear this a lot. I know that won't work in my business. I know this, I know that, because we all got a particular piece of knowledge that we hang on to. And the trick with this internal learning, more knowledge and experience, is be open to new ideas, be open to the potential that somebody else knows something different. We're all in a very blinkered approach. So that was the story of the weapon being made to less accurate. So how does this show up? How do we get this broad range of knowledge that allows us to open up to possibilities? Now, when you look at a beam of light, and you've got to go with me on this one, okay? Beam of light, white light goes into a prism, goes through the glass prism, comes out the other end, and we have the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And most of us, I don't know about you guys, I know that spectrum backwards because the song I learnt at school in the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat play that I had to sing, and they sing it backwards. But anyway, separate story. That's how light occurs in a spectrum. Now, when you look at knowledge, if you want to look at decisions we make, we need to have a spectrum of knowledge, not just books. You can have books, video, go to college, go to a workshop. You can have a coach, get a teacher, go networking, meet good people. You can get knowledge from experience. You can get knowledge from all over the place. And that spectrum of knowledge, the broader that spectrum, the better quality decisions you're going to make because you're basing it on a broader aspect. Too many people, in my experience, go down either the academic route or the book smart route, or only the street smart route. We need all of it. And we'll explain this in a second or two. So when you're looking at building knowledge, we've got to go broad. We're going to go broad in terms of the variety, the sources of the knowledge, but also from the style of knowledge, because there are science books, there are technical manuals, strategic books. Look at the bookshelf behind me here. There's all sorts of flavors and styles of books and content on here. And I'm an engineer by background. So I thought everything worked in a mechanical, structured way, and life would work that way as well. And guess what? Lynn told me it doesn't. It doesn't work that way at all. You've got to be nice to people as well on the journey, apparently. I didn't know that. So you can't treat people as machines. You have to treat them as humans. But anyway, just a learning for me back in the day. So it's the style of knowledge we have, and the source of knowledge needs to be broadened out. So when we look at the knowledge that you have, or the knowledge that I have, you can compartmentalize it to a certain extent. So this is how it shows up. So when we're looking at how to expand your experience and knowledge, and not be the guy who just says no to the bloke who knows the answer, go away, leave us to it. You're open to new ideas. Consider this. This is a framework of knowledge, as I call it. So 4 areas to look at. We've got on the right-hand side, we've got highly educated technical knowledge. There's a picture of Einstein there. The mathematician, scientist, highly technical, brilliant, high IQ. And we've got then what I call university, traditional educational knowledge, university qualifications, degrees, all this sort of thing, all these amazing things that people have. And I thought when I was a young engineer doing my HNC, I think it was back then, I thought life revolved around this quadrant: science, technology, engineering, education, and freight. That was it. I just wanted to be an engineer and learn scientific engineering stuff. And of course, it didn't work out that way. Anyway, that's the first quadrant. Then we have, these people have degrees, they have scrolls. I've got one. I've got two. I've got 2 scrolls, in fact. I'm very proud of them. So we tick the sort of traditional education box. Then we have what I call the sort of social experts, if you like. They're still bright and intelligent, but they do popular science, popular things on Facebook and Twitter, and they've got credibility, but they have what I call popular science. I've got some examples of these books and materials you can have a look at if you choose to. This is the wiki page, the Wikipedia people. Now, when you want to research something on the internet, you're getting all sorts of pages. You can go on the wiki page. Is the wiki page true? Is it true? When I was a lad, when I was young, we used to have the Encyclopedia Britannica. In fact, one of my friends ended up going door to door selling the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it was it weighed about 5 tons of books, and you get it from you had to buy it on subscription. It was a ridiculous thing, but that's where knowledge came from. It came from teachers, it came from books, and that was it. But now we get information knowledge from Wikipedia, social media. Okay, it's good, but is it true? And we don't know. It's good, but maybe true, maybe not true. Now that's on the sort of the academic side of the spectrum. That's where most of us are most comfortable, if you like. On the other end of the spectrum, who knows who this guy is? Just type into chat if you know who this guy is. Who's this fella? Anybody recognize him? Anybody recognize him? Just type it in if you do. Just a bit of fun, that's all. But if you do, you may not. Oh, nobody's keyboard's working. That's no fun. Okay, well, It is Thexit Ike. It is of the David variety. David Icke, who was a, and by the way, I'm not suggesting that I'm advocating these guys at all. Anyway, he was a professional footballer, and I think he developed arthritis in his knees and this sort of thing. He couldn't play football anymore, and he became a commentator. Then about mid-90s, he decided he was going to wear a shell suit. Went on the Wogan show in the UK and declared himself to be the new messiah or something. Anyway, very, very strange person. Anyway, so he is on the other end of the spectrum. He's over there on what I call the crazy creative gang, if you like. But there are people out there that have that crazy sort of perception, and they're educated. So you have people like Eric von Daniken, astronaut gods of the Mayans, and we have Dr. Deepak Chopra as well. So these are over on the educated but slightly crazy spectrum. Now on the bottom left, of course, we've got the David Icke construct and the social media, and these are really, this is a conspiracy theory. This is just crazy town to a certain extent. So I'm not suggesting that you have to become a David Icke of this world or a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. What I am suggesting, however, is that knowledge should be broadened out. Our target should be in the middle. We need to experience all these things, because I've read David Icke, I've read Eric von Daniken. I think David Icke's a psycho. I think he's a nutcase in a good way. I love him. He's great. I'm not sure I hope he's not right anyway. So experience all this different sort of knowledge, expand your frame of reference. So therefore you are open to these more possibilities. So here's some examples of books that you can choose to read them if you like or not. I'm not recommending them. Just want to say that I'm just exploring them. So first one, this is one of my first books. I think I should have took it back to the library in 1990 or something like that. But anyway, so this is a book I was taught on. Very exciting. Engineering Metallurgy, Applied Physical Metallurgy. This is highly structured, scientific, educational, traditional education. If you have trouble getting to sleep, this is the book for you. Engineering Metallurgy. It talks about crystal formations of different grains of steel at different temperatures. And anyway, traditional, educational. Now, when it comes to here we go, down here, this is Deepak Chopra. So highly educated. He is a doctor, highly educated, popular science, popular culture, and the 7 spiritual laws of success. I don't know if the 7 spiritual laws of success are true or not. I've read it, I understand it, and I can take something from it. I'll explain how in a second or two. So you can read that if you want to. That's very good. When you get up to the educated crazy now, the astronaut gods one, here's a fabulous book. Now, I'm not suggesting this is true, so don't shoot me for it. Here we go. But here we go. Who built the moon? There we go. Who built the moon? And the suggestion here is that the moon was built as a satellite and it's made of metal. And anyway, now I don't think it's true, but I don't know if it's true. I tend to go on to the more traditional. Anyway, but if you want to get who built the moon. Now, finally, when we get down into the crazy town at the bottom left here, here's a book by David Icke, and Children of the Matrix by David Icke. And he suggests, and you can go with the flow of this one, but he suggests that an interdimensional reptilian race has controlled the world and still does. One of his points in here, it's a big, thick old book as well, is actually the Queen, bless her, the Queen is a reptile. So is Tony Blair, so is Boris Johnson, I think, as well. There are reptiles, and they even blink like reptiles, and they shapeshift as well. Anyway, no, Angela Merkel. Thank you very much, Cloudy. Yes, I'm not making any comments there. So, but my point is, knowledge goes on a very, very broad spectrum, huge spectrum. If you limit yourself, as I have done for a long time, onto the top right-hand quadrant, science and logic and education, all this sort of thing, it's very, very good. They are good friends of Doctor Who, exactly. It's good stuff, but it limits you. Now, how this shows up, for example, if I read David Icke, or I read the book, I think he's a bit of a nutter, in a good way. I love him, but he's good, a bit strange, put it that way, a bit strange. But what happens is, if I broaden out my spectrum of opportunity, my spectrum of knowledge, given a certain situation, I may respond or react in a slightly different way, because it just might be, I can approach it from a different standpoint, a different view, a different perspective. And if you want to change what something looks like, change the way you look at it. If you want to change what a situation looks like, change the way you look at it. Change your perspective, change your position, change your location. You can do that through changing the breadth and type and style of knowledge that you have. I'm very much in the top right-hand quadrant. That's my comfort zone, but I am intrigued by the other zones as well. And if you're not open to at least look at it, read it, you can delete it afterwards, but allow this breadth of knowledge to come through. And this is just my selection, but then you will limit your opportunities. So when you're looking at growing your knowledge, it's to mix with people from different organizations and cultures. And one of the best things about Luxembourg, it is truly international. We've got an international call. We've got lots of very strange people on the call today from all over the world, which is absolutely great. But it's being open to these possibilities is a real key. Now, don't get carried away. I'm not suggesting, don't go away from this thinking, oh, well, Dave said we've got to go and learn about reptiles in Parliament and that sort of thing. That's not the idea. I'm not saying they're right. What I'm saying is that it may just give you a spark or a creative idea that when you look at another situation in life and business, may give you another way, another perception that would be helpful for you. So those are the four quad. Now, the mask on the bottom left-hand corner. Anybody, just a quick bit of trivia. Anybody know what movie that mask is from? Why it's gained real popular culture on sort of conspiracy theories and a lot of underground movements. They use the mask when they're on protest. But any idea where the mask, just have interest, where the mask comes from? I know because I've watched the movie, but there you go. So any idea where the mask comes from? Any idea what it is? No. It's worth a look. It's a Hollywood sort of movie. It's V for Vendetta is the movie, and it's if you watch the movie, it's uncanny how it's paralleling itself with some of the COVID. Anyway, not going to go down that route with you. But there you go. So V for Vendetta, that's the mask came from. It's worth a look just to get some ideas. The trick here is to broaden your knowledge, broaden your experience. Don't be the guy that ignores other knowledge and experience from the old boy sweeping the broom. It would have saved us months. We would say 3 months' time if we listened to this guy the first time round. It was simple, cheap, effective, did the trick, didn't need to change the ballistics, you just changed the bipod. So we're going to go, well, any questions before we go into the breakout room? And by the way, Zoom chooses the room. I'm not selecting. But any questions so far? Is everybody happy? Are you happy? You can put a yes in for that. Well, you can put a no if you really want to. I'll just delete you. But there we go. Okay, no questions. Excellent. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to pause recording. Okay, so welcome back after the breakout, and it will be an announcement from our sponsors. It's going to be the advertising section going forwards, and so it's a good discussion around broadening out experience. But the second half, this next sort of session, is around, well, so what? What happens when you've got a bit more knowledge, a bit more experience? How can it show up in business and in life specifically? And you might recognize the next guy. He's not in the client group, but you might know who he is. And we talk about negotiation and all this sort of thing. So we're talking about negotiating, we're talking about opportunities, we're talking about having knowledge that gives you an edge in a discussion and negotiation with your team, with your clients, or with anybody in your network, really. So first thing is a principle, and it's called the law of precession or precessional knowledge. And this is this is how it works. So this is a bee, a honeybee, not a bumblebee, a honeybee. And a bee's job is to go to flowers. Now, why does a bee go towards flowers? Why does it go and get the nectar and the pollen out of a flower? Well, the reason a bee does that is because the pollen and the nectar, which are different things, are taken back to the hive, and they feed the bees, the youngsters. They give sustenance and energy to the bees. A bee only lives about 5 or 6 weeks. So in a colony of bees over a sort of season, they renew themselves 2 or 3 times. So a constant flow of new bees coming through, and their job is to go and get the pollen and go back to the hive. They make honey. That's not why they do it. That's a byproduct almost of what they do, but it's sustenance for the hive. Now, the effect of bees doing that is pollination, but the bee doesn't think he doesn't go out there thinking, I'm going to go and pollinate some plants. It's the way that the plants, they attract the bee takes the pollen, they cross-pollinate, and that's how plants flourish. So the bee's focus, the bee's knowledge is one way, but processionally, the effect they have is at 90 degrees. And this is the idea with different flavors of knowledge, different levels of experience. It enables you to behave and act in one way, but get an effect in a way that is you can't anticipate. It's processional. It's like it's a cause and effect, but we don't know what it is. And too many people, again, and we were speaking on the breakout rooms, Claudia and I were saying, we probably come from this top right-hand quadrant, and we got on to talk about astrology, which I think is odd and strange. It's a personal, I understand it, I get it, I don't really resonate with it. But because I know about it, I can consider a different way of looking at things. One of the things I'll send out to you, by the way, is with the notes of this, I did a book. I did a book, an ebook on reading the tarot cards. Now, I don't subscribe to tarot or anything like that, but I went to a networking group in the UK as a BNI back in 10 years ago. So if you know BNI, breakfast networking, all good. Went there and I did my 60 seconds, or I had to do my 60 seconds 1 week. And I was doing my 10-minute slot was the week after. I had 10 minutes to go and sort of pitch to the room. So what I said the week before was, look, I am actually a tarot reading specialist. If you want your tarot cards, a remote cold reading doing, let me know your date of birth, your favorite color, and something, one of your favorite football clubs. Anyway, send me some information about yourself. I will do your reading and I'll send you the reading. And then next week, you can let me know, is the reading accurate or not? So most of the groups send me these details. I think like shoe size or something strange like that. Anyway, I did a cold reading of tarot cards for them, multi-page report, sent them individually. Here's your tarot reading based on what you told me. Here's your tarot reading. You must not show it to anybody else. It's personal, it's private, but let me know how accurate it was. So I got to BNI the week after, and I went around the room and said, how accurate was your tarot reading? And everybody, I think except one, everybody pretty much said, it was amazing. It was spot on. You read me so well. It was genius. I knew you were going to say this, and this has happened to me before. And it was like, wow, this is great. Now, how did I do that? How did I manage to do that? I'm not even a tarot reader. Well, because of basic influence and persuasion and sales techniques, everybody got the same reading. Same thing, same stuff. I'll send it to you. You have a look at it. You can have a look at it yourselves. Because once I know how other people think, if I know people think in tarot world, or they think in reptiles in the commons world, it gives me influence and persuasion over them. It gives me power over them, because then I can tune into how they think and I can understand and influence the way they operate. If I don't understand it, I can't do it. Now, I'm not sort of belittling tarot. I think it's a college trick. Don't worry about it. But in other areas of, well, if I understand how they think, I can influence and persuade them and negotiate with them and bring them in my direction. Now, when I told them that they'd all had the same reading, they all went nuts. They didn't like it because it shattered their illusions, shattered the bubble for them. And not all of them, but some of them. And it got pretty heated. But anyway, I'll send you the reading anyway. So not to offend anybody, just to show you the power of understanding and knowledge. But be definitely on the far left-hand side. Anyway, so knowledge is power, but it's this processional power. Bees going forwards, if you like, to flowers, it's pollination. You reading up on some unusual information or meeting strange people, it enables you to react in a different way in a given situation to be able to get a better outcome. It opens up that learning curve for you. So, knowledge is power. Now, this is how it shows up. In a negotiation environment, knowledge is power. In a negotiation, we need three things to win a negotiation. We need time to be on our side, we need power to be on our side, or we need knowledge. You can win any argument if you have at least one or two out of three of these on your side. So when we're in business, time is a great one. Scarcity of time, scarcity of resources. That's a great, if we can get time on our side through a negotiation, we're going to win. So we had an inquiry come through, and it's the email basically said, words to this effect, we're desperate to have a workshop done in Luxembourg. It's got to be done next week. We're running out of time. Can you help us? Now, what do I know? What's their buying mode? Time. If I can figure out, if I can get time in my schedule to do it. So I went back and said, it's got to be Friday next week. I can do it, but you need to confirm within the next half an hour because my diary's filling up. Within 20 minutes, email came back. Yeah, we're in. Blang, blang. Oh, by the way, what's your price? Price is secondary when time is critical. So if you can get time on your side, that's a great strategy to have in terms of negotiation and influence. If you've got power on your side, then you win as well. Now, for most of us, we're in smaller organizations, we are in smaller groups, so we don't have a lot of power over even some of our clients or people we want to negotiate with. If I want to have power over Volkswagen cars as an organization, I've got no chance because they're bigger, more powerful, they've got better lawyers. They're big and powerful. I can't use that as a strategy. I can use time with them. The key one for us is knowledge. If you can go into a discussion, a negotiation, or an opportunity, and you know more about the subject or the situation than your prospect or the person you're negotiating with does, you win. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples of how this has shown up in my career. And again, they both happen to be like military showcase. But anyway, I was in military subcontracting donkeys years ago. These are two true stories that will show how knowledge can work. So the first one is this. This is a submarine, HMS Vanguard, nuclear submarine. It's a Trident sub. I don't think the Vanguard is a Trident sub. I think it's an attack sub. We've got two groups. They look the same. We've got two. One's an attack sub, torpedoes. One is the nuclear deterrent with the missiles that go. Anyway, this is, I think, one of the attack subs. So when you have these submarines going around the world, and all submarines do is they follow other submarines. They just shadow each other. So the British follow the Russians follow the Chinese follow the Americans, and they just go around in a big network. And what the Russians did, this just allegedly, apparently, is this happened to our subs. We were following the Russian subs. So how do you know if you're following a Russian sub? Because you can't see it. They don't send you a message, say, hi, I'm a Russian sub. One of the telltale signs of measuring or finding out what a submarine is the signature that the propellers leave in the water. They leave, it's called cavitation. They leave a signature in the water as they turn, and that cavitation signature is unique to that particular craft or submarine or boat or ship, whatever it is. So how do you know what you're following? When you measure the cavitation, the pattern in the water, and therefore you know it's not fake news. Stop it, not fake news. You know what you're following. And apparently, you know, I hope this is true, but anyway, this might be fake news for Stefan. But anyway, the Russians took a propeller off an oil tanker, pretty much, and bolted onto the back of a submarine, and they put the submarine propeller on the back of an oil tanker. So the British Navy apparently spent about 3 months following what they thought was a nuclear sub. It was actually an oil tanker. But anyway, that's just a bit of maybe fake news. I don't know, but still. Good. Okay. Thanks, Susan. Good. Kev. So there we go. So anyway, we were approached by the MOD. What happens with these nuclear subs? They go out and about. Now on the top of the conning tower, the control tower, there's all these sticks sticking up, as you can see there. And one of them is the periscope. There's radio antenna. There might be a snorkel on there. There could be radar. There could be all sorts of things. One of them is the periscope. So when the sub goes up to what they call periscope depth, so it's not very deep, just under the water, put the periscope up, and then you can have a look around and see what's going on and all this sort of thing. And they have these on the submarines even now. Now what happens is, if you go to periscope depth, you're quite shallow, and you put your periscope up, you're going to hit things like boats and ships and nets and harbors and all this sort of thing. So they need to have spares of these periscopes in ports all around the world. So where do these submarines go to NATO bases? They have to have, or likely to have, a spare periscope, because they keep breaking them off and they're very, very expensive. So our job was to build a container that would hold a periscope. And these things are, how long is a periscope? I'm not going the secrets route for you, but they must be about 35, 40 feet long when they're compressed. They're a big, long, it's a big tube, and they're about that round, you know, about what's that, sort of 3 foot round, 4 foot round, and away you go. Now, our job was to manufacture a container that you could put this thing in from the dockyard in Scotland, send it anywhere in the world. They could store it, they could handle it. They could even drop it in the water and it would have to float for a period of time. So the specification for these containers was really, really high, because if you drop it into the sea, it must float. I think it had to float for 24 hours unaided. So if they drop it in the sea, you got time to pick it out without leaking and sinking, that sort of thing. So high specification. This quotation was sent out to half a dozen contractors all over the UK, and we had a very strange engineer working for us. Strange in a good way. I think now we may say he could be on the spectrum, whatever that means, but he was very, very odd. He brought his dog into work, and he wouldn't talk to people. He would come in the morning, go home at midnight, come back at 2 a.m, and anyway, odd but brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I got on with him very well because he was top right quadrant, highly technical engineering. Didn't get on with salespeople at all, but he would talk to me. And I remember going to see him with the drawings came through for this thing, and I said, "Look, Tony, can you just have a look at it and find me some gaps, find me a gap in the specification where we can get an edge for ourselves?" And everybody told me not to bother with him. My MD, I was only general manager back in the day, he said, "Don't give it to Tony. He'll just, he's a nightmare. He's difficult to deal with. He's crazy. He's good, but he's crazy. Don't bother with him." And I gave him the drawings. I said, "Look, have a look at the drawings." And he said, "How long have I got?" I said, "Well, have them for a week, but we need to go back with the quotation now, within a week." And he had a look at these drawings, and within about 20 minutes, he came into my office and he just sat down. He said, do you want this contract?" I said, "Yeah, we'd like to get it." He said, "Right, don't quote for what they're asking for." I went, "Okay." He said, "It'll sink." I said, "What do you mean it'll sink?" He said, "Well, the specification is it's got to be float. It's got to float. This is a huge aluminium case. It's structural, welded, and all this sort of pressurized and all this sort of thing." He said, "It'll sink in specific types of water." Okay, well, what specific types of water? It said water over, over the temperature of the North Sea. Ah, okay. Because what they'd done in the specification, they'd got the seal around the lid of this container. The neoprene would not sustain. It was a low temperature neoprene, wouldn't sustain higher temperature, and the glue they'd used would melt as well. And at higher temperature, the glue would melt, and he knew this, and we didn't, but he knew it. So when we did our quotation, we did the whole bid. We did two. We did a price for what they wanted, and we did a price for what they needed. We went back with an alternative price. The seal that they needed was like 10 times the price of the one that they wanted. It was a crazy polymer thing. The glue was special. You had to import it from, I think it was from the USA. Crazy. It was a lot more expensive than the traditional one. But when we did the bid, the guy from the MOD said to us, "Well, we're accepting sealed bids. You can't put two in." I said, "You need to look at both. We're going to put two in. You need to look at both." Anyway, put two bids in. They came back and they phoned us and they said, we're going to come and visit you." So they came down to visit us in Southampton at the time, and they brought Tony into the meeting with me. And they said to him, "Is this true? Is this right, what you've spotted?" He said, "Yeah, you can check it out." And it was true. So we won the contract. We were the highest price bid. We were the smallest company in the group to bid for it. We won it. Everybody else quoted for the standard seal. Now, this has cropped up again. You may have heard the story of I think it's the Type 42 frigates. They can't go to the Med. They can't go into the UAE because the water's too hot and the engines stall. Same thing, similar sort of thing. That with the problem we found on these cases. So knowledge is your defense. It absolutely pays dividends. If we'd have quoted like for like on that contract, we may not have won it because we were expensive, but they would have got a product that wouldn't have worked. When they drop one of these things in the sea, in the UAE of Dubai or something like that, it would have sank. The mold, the seal wouldn't have worked. So knowledge is your defense. It absolutely shows up. It's your defense, and that's how we won the contract. It was about, gosh, it was about $500,000 contract, a sizable contract of packaging containers, and that's back in the early 90s. This is old news now, but anyway, so that's how knowledge can show up. So that's the first story. The second story, military as well. And I'm going to ask Gareth if he knows what this is, just to put him on the spot a little bit. So Gareth, do you know what this is? What's that? You may know, you may not, but do you know? Just put it into the chat if you know what that is. And don't put it's a trailer. I know it's a trailer. Any idea what that is? Anybody know what that is? That thing is? Any idea? No? Nobody? Anti-aircraft gun. Yes, no, it's not. It's a good guess. At least it shows the system's working. This is a thing. It's a beautiful bit of kit. It's called the Giant Viper. And what you do with this thing is you tow it, this trailer, you tow it behind a tank or any vehicle, basically. You tow it behind a vehicle. And when you get to a minefield, to get rid of the mines, that thing sticking up that you can see, there's actually a rocket launcher. And what it does, you launch the rocket, it goes over the vehicle you're driving, lays this rope down. It's like a rope about so thick. It puts the rope down in a straight line in front of you. It's an explosive rope. You explode the rope, it blows up and it destroys all the mines, and you drive through and away you go. So Giant Viper, and it's a weapon system. It's been updated now. It's now called Python. It's a bit more technical now. This was the Giant Viper that we just used the most junior. Exactly. There's all sorts of stories and jokes about how do you clear mines in a minefield. Well, you send the parachute regiment in. But anyway, I'm not going to go there. So that was our job was to make this Giant Viper box thing, not the trailer, the box that sits on the back of it. Big contract, different company this time. And I came from Royal Ordnance. That was my background. I was then hired by this commercial company. They had this quotation to do, and they sat me down in this meeting. The first 2 or 3 weeks I was there, and they said, "Okay, we've got a bid to put in to manufacture Giant Viper." And this was this is a huge contract, dozens and dozens of them. And they got the drawings out, they put the thing up on a screen, not a computer screen, it was an acetate screen back then. And okay, here's a specification. And they went around there and said, okay, what do you reckon? Can we do it? Can we not do it? Should we bid for it? Should we not quote for it? And I saw in the specification, inside that box is a big, I've got a plank of wood. It's a plank of wood, and it sits inside. And when you fire this thing, it helps the rope uncoil so it doesn't get snared, and then it lays it down. But there's this mechanism inside, and it's made of wood because you don't want metal next to your explosives. It's going to spark, it'll go up too soon. So wood is very inert, it's good. And the piece of wood in there. And I said, what's that wood made of? Because I sort of recognized the specification, and it was made out of what we call a tropical hardwood. And I think it was, I can't remember what it was called now, generally can't, but it was very, very rare, very, very special. And you can't get it. You can't get this wood. You just can't get it. So I said, well, I know where there's some of that wood, because it's the same wood they were using to make certain parts of other weapon systems that I was involved with before I joined them. I said, there's some of that wood down at, literally down in Woolwich at the old Arsenal. I said, if we can get the wood, nobody else can get it. We can get that wood. We can get that component. We can store it. Nobody else can make it. We're going to get the contract. And they thought that was insane. That was ridiculous. But it wasn't. So we contacted the people who had this, only about 2 or 3 pieces of wood in the world, if you like. We said, can we buy the wood? It was hugely expensive. It cost like $5,000 for a bit of wood. And my managing director said to me, if you're wrong on this, you're going to get fired. I said, well, don't do it then. But if you want to get the contract, go and buy the wood. You know, this is a big contract. So we bought the specialist wood, put the contract in, other people were quoting for it. And of course, everybody else who wanted a price for that wood had to come to us, because we had the only wood in the world pretty much. And we put the price up for it. So we put a bid in, other people put a bid in, because we had that one particular component. We won the contract. Now, that sort of knowledge is not book knowledge, it's sort of street knowledge, but that's when you're going to win. That's when you're going to find out how you can have an edge over the competition, understanding your specifications, understanding what the client needs, what the client wants, and going out from being just a bookworm and being more open, being more sort of less structured, if you like, taking the risk. Knowledge gives you the ability to take these sort of risks. And we had another one where there was in a similar sort of arrangement where a competitor business was going bankrupt, and they had a machine that we wanted. So we bought the company. We just bought the company. We didn't want the company. We wanted the machine they got. We bought the company, got the machine, put it into our workshop, which meant we had one machine, and we bought the second one. There was no other machine in the UK that could do what this machine could do. So we trapped the market, but we knew we had knowledge, we had intelligence. And these are the sort of things that I find make the biggest difference, because if you have market intelligence or product intelligence and knowledge, or you bring people into your organization that are slightly strange, don't think like you, or you connect with people who are slightly strange, like on the call today. You're all great. There are some unusual people, different backgrounds, different knowledge, different back. Those are the people you need to connect with, open up to their ideas, because that's where you're going to get this one or two inspirational ideas that will, project you forwards. And a final story, but before we go into the group with some more breakouts for you, I'm going to talk about homework in a second. So I hope you've done it. But I was running a warehouse in Milton Keynes. Who remembers Commodore computers? Remember Commodore computers back in the old days? C64s, Amigas, all this sort of thing. Big 125,000 square foot warehouse, and we're doing distribution services all over the UK, this sort of thing. Thank you. Yes, I'm showing my age. I was only six at the time, but anyway, and we were shipping these things all over Europe. And of course, when it got to Christmas time, we were building these games consoles with software. It was on cassette tape back then as well. But anyway, cassettes. Anyway, all the things going out. So huge value of stock. And the insurance company said to us, "Okay, you got all this value of stock, and it's called VNA stock, valuable and attractive. So it's VNA stock. You've got to have somebody on site at all times, security to protect the site and this sort of thing." I was again towards Christmas and December, so I went to one of the agencies, security agencies, and said, "Look, we've got our own daytime security. We're on site all day, 7 days a week. I need somebody to be on site for 3 or 4 nights." From sort of Thursday to the Sunday night to cover us on the night shifts. Who have you got? And of course, in December, there were hardly anybody left. They're all working, no temps left, nobody left on security. So anyway, they brought this guy along to see me. And as I walked into the office, the guy from the agency said to me, he said, "I want you to have an open mind." I went, "Okay, my mind is open." And this guy walked in with a guide dog. And he got this beautiful Labrador dog, walked in with a guide dog, sat down and sat in front of me. And he said, my name's Bob, whatever it is. And I'd like to apply for the job of security guard. And I looked at the guy who'd brought him in. And I didn't say anything out of respect for the guy I was speaking with. I was thinking, "What are you thinking? Are you insane?" And then as I looked at him, this guy said, "Let me tell you why I will be the best security guard, even though I can't see. Let me tell you why I'm the best security guard for you." He said, "Because what you're going to get me to do," he said, "is you're going to put me in a box at the front of the warehouse, all locked in the dark." He said, "I don't need to see for a start," he said, "but I'm going to be there to listen for things and monitor sounds that are going on." He said, "You're also going to give me a patrol to do." He said, "You're going to give me a patrol to walk around your warehouse and check every door every 45 minutes on my shift. And I'm going to fill a report in to say I've checked every door." I went, "Yeah, that's right. Of course you have." He said, "Well, if you walk me around your warehouse," he said, "I've got to go to every door." So "What do you mean you've got to go to every door?" He said, "Because I can't see my way around. I've got to follow the path you give me. So I guarantee," so if I do a circuit of your warehouse and get back to the office and let you know I've done my check, I can guarantee I've made the circuit for you." He said, "Other people can't guarantee that, can they?" All right. "No." I said, "Well, what happens if there's an intruder then? If the door is open, there's an intruder." He just pointed at his dog. He said, "This dog was in the military with me." I went, "Okay." So we hired a blind security guard. He was ex-military, lovely guy. He was Green Jackets. I think it was Green Jackets. Anyway, but he'd been injured. He couldn't see. He had very, very poor vision. He could, light and dark, he could tell, but he couldn't see anything at all, pretty much. So we went to the insurance company. I said, "Look, you got to go with me on this one. We've got a security guard, but he can't see." And they said, "Is he ex-military?" I went, "Yeah, he is." "Great. Yeah, fine." It's like I didn't know this recognized thing. But if I hadn't have been open to the possibility or open to the idea, or the guy from the agency hadn't been open to it, I would never have done it. He was great. He came back, he did a lot of work for us. He was a lovely guy, very, very efficient. And his dog was beautiful. He did a great job and he was just perfect. But you've got to be open to different ideas and different principles. And that openness means you're going to see opportunities that other people don't. So there are my little stories. I am showing my age there with Commodore computers, but anyway, it's all good fun. So any questions? Any questions around this? Negotiating, knowledge is your power. That is your knowledge. That is your PowerPoint, literally to go and win. Any questions before I go on to the homework that I set or encouraged you to participate in? last week. Any questions? No? Okay, good. So homework. Who's got 5 books they're going to read between now and the end of the year? And did anybody choose and select out of interest? It's a simple one. Anybody choose 5 books? Who's got 5 books they're going to select and read between now and the end of the year? Anybody? I'm going to chase you down on it anyway. There's no escape. You're going to have to choose 5 books. Anybody choose 5? Nobody chose 5 books. Lisa did. Excellent. Dennis, thank goodness. You're a good boy. You're a good boy. Excellent. Okay, good. Let's go here. Sue raised hand. Okay, so I'm going to unmute you, Sue or Kev. Yeah, here we go. Where you gone? There we go. Can I hear you now?
Yep.
Kev, hi, they're gone. I know you're not allowed books, are you? You've got too many.
I'm not allowed to buy a new one, so I've got to buy some of the ones I've got behind me.
Yeah, that's right. Just read the ones you've got. That's it. Just read the ones you've got. Then you're up to date. Then you're all right. No. Good. Any highlights? Any recommendations, Kev? While you're unmuted?
Driving Excellence was The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Straight Line Leadership. And if anybody wants a copy of that, I've got that on PDF. The Power of Now. The Now Habit, which is all about procrastination. And I've also got, believe it or not, Your Business Rules Okay.
Oh,
good stuff in that.
Is it? Who wrote that then?
I don't know.
Some bloke from Birmingham, apparently. Can't trust Brummies. Can't trust Brummies. But anyway, thank you for that. Excellent. Good. Thanks, Kev. You're a star. You're a star. Good. So, yeah, there we go. So we've got here, Gareth. I've got a stack to get through. Yes, I chose 2. It sounded excellent. Yeah, Amandeep. 4.5 from Stefan Nanye, sort of close enough there. Claudia, excellent. Only because this, what I find, and for me, but also for everybody, is that if I have a book on the go all the time, I mean, I have read all these. There's some good ones and some not so great ones, but it just keeps me sharp, new ideas, new thoughts. And I do read from the spectrum of all these books and bits and pieces, worth doing it. But also check out on YouTube. It hasn't got to be books, audio books, videos. Look for broader mix. The challenge with YouTube, of course, is whatever you sort of select on a regular basis, YouTube filters it for you. You don't get anything outside the network, if you like. So, be creative with it, but it's definitely a good way of doing it. So, all right. Good. So we're going to have another breakout. I'll put you into groups, and your challenge this time is just what books would you recommend? So just go through with each other what books you recommend, or what speakers or video series. I would recommend, for example, I'll give you 2. Brene Brown, a lady over in the US, does sort of motivational personal development presentations. I think she's brilliant. Brene Brown, you can find her. She's all over YouTube. Very nice style about her. Talks a lot of sense, but got an interesting journey as well. So check out Brene Brown. And who else would I recommend? Who else would I look for? I'd go for Tony Robbins. I look at Tony Robbins. Some of his stuff is really good. Some's a little bit strange, but out there. But have a look at his stuff as well. So Tony Robbins, he's got some great models and principles, and definitely worth a look. Okay, so I'm going to suspend the recording just for a second and get notes from our sponsors, as everybody knows. And then we can, just a second. Come on, machine. I'm going to have to edit this out now. I can't believe it. Pause recording. Found the button now. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. So let's just get these. Here we go. Yeah, we're coming back into the main room now. Excellent. Excellent. Good. Good to see you. Okay, so we're all back now. I think we are. Pretty much. Yep, we're all back. So, any questions? Any questions for me at all? Not compulsory. They don't have to be, but just in case. Okay. Has it been useful? Been okay? Put your thumbs up or nod. Make sure you're awake. Excellent. Good. That's the main thing. So what I'm going to do, I will send out to you the audio video recording with all the sort of copy of the slides on PDF as well. I've also got 2 ebooks for you. This can go into your list, I suppose. One is the tarot ebook. Just take it for what it is, but if you read it as if it's a tarot reading, bit of fun. See if it applies to you. And this is it will, but it's fake. But anyway, so the tarot book. And also, I did an ebook some years ago on the personal development, education sort of business, going all the way back from Plato through to Tony Robbins. So a list of all the movers and shakers in the industry. I'll send it over to you as well to have a look at. I might give some ideas of people to have a look at and check out their information, their ideas as well. And the PDF of the slides. So I'll send that out. It might be over the weekend because I'm back at the house doing the refurb in the next couple of days. And you just watch out for updates on that as we go along. So any questions for now? Or Josh, I'll let you go and get back and go back to making some money. Everybody happy? Excellent. Good. Well, look, great to see you. Thank you for joining in. I will speak to you, see you over the next few days, next week, that sort of thing. Any questions, any thoughts crop up, just let me know. Excellent. We'll see you all next week. So it's same time, same channel, the final section, and it's going to be bringing it all to life into designing the dream and planning that type of thing. And look forward to that. Invites will come out and I'll speak to you in the meantime. If in the meantime, have a great weekend and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.